In this video I want to talk to you about cadences. And cadences are something that are really important when you're doing the Leaving Cert melody question. They're actually one of the key things the examiner will look at, your ability to navigate cadences competently. It's something that they'll really give marks for. In fact, if you were doing the ordinary level question, some of the questions only involve actually writing the melody at cadence points. You're given the rest of the melody. So cadences are something that's really important. It's really looked at by the examiner. So what is a cadence? Well, a cadence is essentially, it's the ending to a phrase. A phrase is like, it's a musical idea that happens over a couple of bars. In the case of the Leaving Cert melody writing question, your phrases are always about 4 bars long. They're always exactly 4 bars long. And your phrases, they tend to end at the end of each line. So I'm going to put in phrase marks. That's like these little comma type things. These are phrase marks just to let us know when we're at the end of each phrase. You can also have phrase marks that are like a big arc that goes over your phrase here, but I think the comma just looks a lot neater and tidier. It's easier to use, so I use that more. So these are the end of each of our phrases, right where the comma is. Our cadences then come right there, right at the end of each phrase, and they last for 2 bars. So we've got one cadence here at the end of bars 3 and 4. We've got a cadence for bars 7 and 8, cadence for bars 11 and 12, and a cadence for bars 15 and 16. And those are where we need to have our cadences in our melody. So how do we know what a cadence is or how to use it? Okay, so there are essentially 4 different types of cadence that you're going to need to know about for the Leaving Cert. And they all have names, and they're all based on the chords that you use. What chords are you using at that cadence point, at the end of the phrase? The first type of cadence we need to know is what's known as a perfect cadence, and it goes from chord 5 to chord 1. Right, that's called a perfect cadence. Perfect cadence. Okay, the next one we need to know about is called an imperfect cadence, and for an imperfect cadence you can go from any chord you want to chord 5. Generally it's chord 1 to chord 5. That's the most common way to do it. But you can have it where it goes from chord 4 to chord 5 or anything else. That's an imperfect cadence. So you end a phrase by going from chord 1 to chord 5. The next one you need to know, it goes from chord 4 to chord 1. So it actually sounds kind of like a perfect cadence, going from chord 4 to chord 1 instead of chord 5 to chord 1, and this one is called a plagal cadence. Okay, so plagal cadence. And the last one you need to know, last one you need to know is called an interrupted cadence, and that goes from chord 5 to chord 6. I'm going to write chord 6 in lowercase Roman numerals because it's actually a minor chord. So you write minor chords in lowercase Roman numerals, major chords in uppercase. And this one's called an interrupted cadence. So interrupted cadence. Okay, those are the 4 main types of cadence. For the Leaving Cert melody writing question, we actually only need to use 2 of them. We don't use an interrupted cadence, and we don't use a plagal cadence. So you can forget about those for the moment. They're used, you might have to know about them for your set works or for an unseen piece or anything. But for your melody writing question, you only need to know about your perfect cadence and your imperfect cadence. They're the only ones we need to use. Okay, so let's go quickly back up to our melody. So where do we use, like we said, we need to use our perfect and imperfect cadences. Where do we need to use each? Okay, so at the end of bars 3 and 4, you're going to have, sorry, I was going to write perfect cadence there. At the end of bars 3 and 4, you have an imperfect cadence. So I'm going to write imperfect here. Okay. At the end of bars 7 and 8, you've got a perfect cadence, but remember it will be in a different key because you will have modulated. If you look at a video on modulations, which you should do, at bars 7 and 8 you will be in a different key. You will have modulated either to the dominant if you were in a major key to begin with, or the relative major if you were in a minor key to begin with. So you'll have a perfect cadence at that point, a 5/1 cadence, but it will be in your new key, in your dominant key or your relative major key, depending on whether your original key was major or minor. Okay. In bars 11 and 12, you're once again going to have an imperfect cadence. imperfect cadence. And at the very end, bars 15 and 16, you're going to have a perfect cadence in your original key. So it goes imperfect, perfect, imperfect, perfect. But this first perfect cadence, it's going to be in a new key, so it won't be the same chords. You've got a cadence at the same time you've got a modulation, so it's something you'll need to learn about the two and learn how they work together and things. Okay, so let's look at our different cadences. So our imperfect cadence we know is chords something to 5, anything to chord 5. So we have to have chord 5 here, and this can be any chord here. Our perfect cadence has to be chord 5 to chord 1. Imperfect again, so that's anything to chord 5, and then perfect has to be 5 to 1. So those are our cadence points. We need to really outline those chords, really emphasize the cadence at these points. So on our strong beats, the main beats, the downbeats of each bar, we need to have notes of those chords. And we need to be able to work out what those chords are in order to do that. So we need to look at our key. We need to look at our key signature and find out what key we're in. So we got 3 flats, which means we're either in the key of E flat major or we're in C minor. Now if you go through it, you'll see that the very first bar outlines it uses the notes C, E flat and G quite prominently. It also uses D as a passing note, but the main ones are C, E flat and G. So that kind of tells us our first chord is chord 1 in the key of C minor. So we're in the key of C minor here. We've also got our B natural, which would be the 7th note, raised in the key of C minor, so that really tells us we're in the key of C minor. Okay, so I'm just going to write that up here so that we know what we're dealing with here. So if we write out the notes of the key of C minor, let's just do it over here. So we got C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, and B flat. Okay, so this is the notes of our key of C minor. So chord 1 in that key will be made up of, so we go to 1, go to note 1, then we take 1 and skip 1, take 1 and skip 1. So chord 1, which is one of the ones we really need to know about, is made up of C, E flat and G. Our chord 5 then, which is the other chord we really need to know the notes of, we need to go to note 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're going to G. Okay, so it's made up of G, take 1 and skip 1, B flat. We need to go extend this a bit, so we just repeat our cycle. After B flat, we go C, D, on. So we go G, B flat, we take 1, skip 1, and we get D. So our notes of chord 5 are G, B flat, and D. But if you remember, if you think back to our minor key, we always raise the 7th note. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that B flat, we need to raise that. That's not going to be B flat anymore. It's going to be B natural, which means in our chord 5, we also don't have a B flat. We've got a B natural. Okay, has to raise. So chord 1 is C, E flat, and G. Chord 5 is G, B, and D. So let's look at our cadence points. Whenever we have chord 5, we really need to outline the notes G, B flat, and D. And as you can see, they've done that here. In the original melody, they've had what's called an accented auxiliary note here. You've got the emphasized note. The one on the strong beat is actually C, which is not one of the notes of chord 5. So that's might seem a bit confusing, but it does really emphasize that B note, that B natural. It stands out because it's not from the original key. You will hear that B natural really standing out because it's got the accidental in there. It's gonna stand out a little bit to your ear. And you're also emphasizing that D note, which is one of the notes of chord 5. So you are emphasizing chord 5 here. Also, as you can see in the bar I've written, because you're given these original bars, I've written these ones. I've really tried to emphasize chord 5 here as well. So G, B, and D. I've got D, B. I've done a little passing note of an A here, but then I've got G. So again, I've really tried to outline the notes of chord 5 here. Alright, I'm going to ignore this bit for the moment because it's in the modulated key. So I'll come back to that. So at this point we have to outline the notes of chord 5 in bar 15 and the notes of chord 1 in bar 16. Okay, so the notes of chord 1, we have to end on do, so we have to end on the main home note of chord 1, which is C. So what I've chosen to do is I've chosen just to stick to the C, and I've just jumped down the octave there. I've not done, I could have outlined the chord, I could have had the notes C, E flat and G in there. I could have gone C, G, E flat, you know, like a quavers here, C, G, E flat. I don't know if you can see that. Going down like that, down to this C. I could have done that, but instead I've just decided to do the octave lead. There's no real reason, just would have worked either way. So then we have to outline the notes of chord 5 here. So notes of chord 5 are G, B natural and D, and as you can see I've done that. I've got D, B natural, G, B, D. So the only notes I use all come from chord 5 here. So D, B, G, B, D. Go straight back up. So as you can see, at every cadence point, we've tried to outline the notes of the chords that we really need. At our imperfect cadence point, when we end on chord 5, we really want to outline the notes of chord 5. In our perfect cadence, you really want to outline the notes of chord 5 in one bar, and then in the succeeding bar, you want to outline the notes of chord 1. When you're leading to chord 5, you'll probably, in your imperfect cadences, you'll probably be outlining the notes of a chord as well. But it doesn't have to be any specific chord, it can be anything really. I mean, we're in the key of C minor here, so as you can see in this one, I got C, got a passing note of a D, then I've got E flat, and a passing note of a C, I suppose. So C and E flat are my main strong beats here, so I've kind of outlined chord 1 here, so I've kind of got chord 1 going to chord 5. Well, I have got chord 1 going to chord 5. The composer here of the original bars that they were given, they kind of outline the notes F, A, C, and A. So they're outlining kind of as A flat, sorry. So they've got a kind of an F minor chord there, which would be chord 4 of C minor. So you've kind of got 4, lowercase 4 when it was. And actually I should have done that here as well. So I should have one. Here too. Anyway, lowercase. Just not to confuse things any further. So they've got kind of got chord 4 going to chord 5 for their imperfect cadence, because they got like an F minor chord outlined here, and then that's going to their chord 5. And as you can see from the imperfect cadence, it can be anything going to chord 5, but usually it's 1. They've done 4 in their bar. So that's your different cadences. Imperfect used here, imperfect used here, and perfect used here. Just really outline the notes of those chords and finding out what they are. In bars 7 and 8, you've also got a perfect cadence. It's now in either the dominant or the relative major key. That's something you can really look at the modulation videos to find out. But just to quickly go through it here, we're in the key of C minor, so we will modulate to a relative major. If you look at our other videos and do a bit of practice on this, you'll know that the relative major of C minor is E flat. So we're modulating to the key of E flat major here. So we need to use chord 5 in the key of E flat major, and then chord 1 in the key of E flat major. Actually use a major. So chord 5 in E flat major is, if anyone wants to try and work it out, it's B flat. That's made up of the notes B flat, D, and F. Chord 1 in the key of E flat major is E flat. That's made up of the notes E flat, G, and B flat. So chord 5 is B flat, D, and F, and as you can see, actually sorry, I made a mistake because this is the minor key, so it has to be 2-5, because we've got our cadence actually doesn't really occur until here. So it is a 5-1 cadence, but it doesn't really occur until bar 9. So we got 2-5 here. So we've got our 5-1 cadence is actually here in the minor key. Okay, so chord 5 is B flat, D, and F. So we've got B flat, F, got a little passing note of an A, and B flat. And then chord 1 needs to be E flat, G, and B flat. So it goes E flat with a lower auxiliary note. We've got another E flat, then we've got a B flat and a G. So again, that's really outlining chord 1 here, chord 5 here. That was my mistake earlier. yeah, in the minor key, your cadence doesn't really happen until bar 9. The cadence is into bar 9. So you got chord 5 in bar 8, and then cadence is into chord 1 in bar 9. In a major key, that would be going 5, 1 in your dominant key around here. So that's what you really need to look at. The main things you need to remember for your cadences are bars bars 3 and 4, they're given to you, but it will be an imperfect cadence. Bars 11 and 12 are going to be an imperfect cadence that you write yourself. Bars 15 and 16 are a perfect cadence, right around here, so that's 5 to 1. And if you're in a major key, you'll be modulating to the dominant here, and you will have a 5-1 cadence, a perfect cadence at this point, around here. And if you're in a minor key, you will be modulating to the relative major, and you will have a 2-5-1 cadence. So it's still a 5-1 cadence, it's still a perfect cadence, just chord 2, then 5, and then chord 1 doesn't happen until the beginning of bar 9, which is the start of your sequence. Okay, so I hope that helps you getting a little bit of an understanding of cadences and how they work. You might need to watch the video a couple of times to really get it, but hopefully it'll sink in after a while.